everyone. Welcome to Yachting International Radio. You're with Corinne Rayson from the Crew Coach on the Wellbeing project. You may all know this familiar face, an influencer, may I say, Luke, Captain Luke. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So Luke and I were just having a chat before, and we're trying to guess where we were from. Luke told me where he's from. He's from Sydney. And I call Sydney home since I spent 12 years there, but he was able to accurately guess not only the country, but the city where I was from. So that was quite fun. But anyway.
Shows how long I've been in the industry.
Yes, totally. You got the skill, you got the knack. I love it. Like I walk around and or if I'm on a bus and I try and do the same thing and I wonder where they're from, and I try and guess it. But the reason why we're doing this interview today,
but all our accents
there's a bit of
I was just going to say all our accents are so washed in these days, especially if you've been on a boat
so long,
so it makes it interesting.
It certainly does. So today we're doing an interview for the Yachtcrew Awards, but my perspective on it is just a little bit different. I think when it comes to voting, it's so important to know the person behind the picture. So what are their attributes, and to get to know them on a more personal level, because I think with social media, we can draw assumptions really quickly based on the image that is being portrayed, or if other people in our industry, I think there might be a lot of, let's say, gossiping per se, and people are not engaging with the person directly, and they're just going on based from other people's assumptions. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to not only get to know each other, but the listeners to get to know you, Luke. And I know that we're both in the same category. We both have been nominated for the Mentorship Award, and I think that's brilliant.
So do I. I think it's great.
Yeah, and it's so lovely to see new faces, and I know we connected briefly last year, but just to build that up and go, hey guys, you can be mentors too. And I know there's so many others out there that perhaps should have also been elected, but it's just highlighting the traits and attributes related to what a mentor actually looks like in action, rather than just all talk.
True. I think I never really saw myself as a mentor, just, being completely honest, only for the reason that I never really thought of it that way. I've always, growing up, I always used this idea of for every place I ended up working, I always took one little aspect out of anybody's managerial skills, and I'd be like, I like that, I don't like that. And I've tried to adopt it. And, nobody's perfect. But what I have found is that for me personally, for all the people that I've worked with in yachting, it's such a mixed bag. It can be completely toxic. It can be totally militant, or it can actually be a lot of fun and professional and safe at the same time. And I've always sort of said to myself, if I got to the opportunity where I could create my own environment, and ultimately, this is what I'm still doing, I want that environment. I want it to be social. I want it to be professional. I want it to be fun. And when you see how far the industry has and hasn't gone in the last sort of, 18 plus years, it hasn't really changed. And the information, once everybody leaves the industry, they take all this information with them. And there's, you could go online, you can find bits and pieces about yachting, but ultimately you're piecemealing stuff. So when there's people like yourself and myself that are silly enough to put ourselves out there in the social market and give words of advice, and being quite raw with some of it, some people take to it, some people don't. And I've just always sort of liked the idea that, the industry's given me so much, so why not give back?
Absolutely. And to use a platform that you have created, which is very significant, that is a great way to showcase the reality of yachting too, and the behaviors that we would like to see and what people can strive towards. And this is why I want to use this platform, the Crew Coach and Yachting International Radio, to speak about topics that are perhaps uncomfortable to talk about. Because I think we need to start breaking down the stigma around mental health issues and poor leadership and successful leadership, so that people become more aware. And that's part of emotional intelligence, is self-awareness.
100%. I agree with that. 100%.
So tell me.
That's the one thing with emotional intelligence. I think everybody grows into it. And it's not something, it's not necessarily a common trait, because I found that with a lot of people that are sitting in positions of authority, typically they've got there because they've spent a certain amount of time there. And they may be great at one aspect, but when it comes to dealing with people as a general rule, it's not necessarily their forte. They may park a boat great. They may be able to run and operate a boat and, make sure it's staying within budgetary requirements. But the biggest aspect of yachting is the service aspect and dealing with people. We're solving problems for people. We're making sure that people have an amazing time. And if you can't create that environment on your boat, what's to say you're going to be doing that for the people that you're working for? And that's kind of like it's a tricky situation for everybody. But I think, there's opportunities there for a lot of captains, and we've got captains and crew to grow into positions where they are more self-aware and aware of the people around them.
Yeah, and so important. And that's why I think in the hiring process, we need to start assessing soft skills. And I have a advanced leadership course that just got accredited, and we go through that. We learn how to do performance reviews, how to receive feedback, because as leaders, sometimes we don't want to hear it. We're like, no. I'm your leader. I give you feedback. You don't give me feedback. And that is a huge pitfall to your success as a leader if you can't receive feedback. It's about holding the mirror up to your face and looking at yourself and saying, am I being the best version of myself on board?
That's a hard one for people to take on board, because we're so society-wise, we're drilled into us to be a certain way. And if you're going to be a leader, you need to be able to lead. And for everybody, that definition is, I'm going to tell you what to do and you follow what I'm supposed to be doing. And ultimately in yachting, it's a fine line, because you can't turn around and not have people listen to you, for safety reasons and legal reasons and things like that. But at the same time, there has to be that mutual respect. So it's a tricky one. And I still think a lot of people can grow into it. They just need to be aware of it.
Yeah. And I think the environment needs to be set up correctly in order to deliver that feedback or receive it.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of leadership and during courses, you obviously done your helm, right?
No.
You haven't? Okay.
No, I got in through I've been in yachting long enough that I managed to bypass all these new courses that have come out. Even though I'm a young face, right? I'm wise, I think.
Why?
No, I've taken a lot of information from a lot of people that I've worked with over the years.
Yeah.
And I've really just taken all the best parts out of it. And at the same time, like you were saying, you've got to be open to criticism. And I 100% have not been, the perfect captain, because I've been told I'm patronizing. I've been told it's difficult to talk to me sometimes. I don't give compliments, bits and pieces like that. And there's some great stories that go along with it. But at the same time, I've had an open door policy, and I've had it, even though it's uncomfortable for people to broach the topic, I've let them have that opportunity to come in and it's like, Luke, we feel that you should give us more compliments. And I'm like, okay, can I work on that one? And like, yeah. We just want to be heard. Okay, fine. And then the patronizing part of it, sometimes it's ingrained in us sometimes. If, you know, if someone's repeating the same mistake over and over again, and you're like, but just do it this way, everything comes back down to communication. And you've got everybody through different ages, and the way we talk to one person, that needs to be to something a different way to a different person of different ages. And, you know, it's never ending. But if you can strike up, if you can have quality communication with someone, regardless of their age, you're always going to win. And that's what I found it comes down to. And just picking someone's, you know, where they are.
Yes.
Everybody's going to have a bad day.
And also, Luke, what I'm hearing is that you've got psychological safety on board, because it's very rare. And I get this feedback from captains. Oh, but I always say I've got an open door policy, but they're not coming up and talking to me. I don't get it. And so there's a mismatch with what's going on somewhere. But the fact that they are approaching you and feel comfortable enough to give you that feedback, that's massive.
Yeah. Well, I don't, you know, I don't, you know, I'm not a yeller and a screamer. I'm the guy that turns around and says, look, I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. And for a lot of people in this industry, it's you're going to, there's a lot of yelling that goes on. There's a lot of me. And for this environment, it just has to be more like everybody's an adult and everybody's allowed to come and tell me something. They can whatever they want to do verbally, but they're going to be treated like an adult. And at the same time, it's the way you create the environment. And I sort of always tell people, it's like we're building it based around the social circumstances. But at the same time, there's no ball and chain that holds anybody here. If you don't want to be here, the door is open, you can leave. I'm not going to force anybody to stay. I'm not going to force anybody to do something they don't want to do. But if you want to be here and you want to be in like a fun family environment, and it be safe and professional, then stay. Outside of that, you know, find somewhere else.
Yeah. So now tell me what
it's pretty black and white.
It is. And you need those boundaries, and you need to be very clear as well. And that's also a degree that provides safety, boundary setting. You need black and white as well, but then you also need that space to have discussion and compromise and unpack things. So tell me, in terms of team cohesion, collaboration, what do you do with the team to build that?
I found that it's really based around the core theme. And the easiest way to explain that would be the people that I have on board. It starts, you know, a team is built, and it takes time to build a team, and it takes time to build that culture in the environment. And I always sort of said roughly 6 months, because everybody has to buy into the concept of it being fun, of it being professional, and of having those standards. And it's not for everybody. Like someone could come in here tomorrow and be like, no, I don't really, it's not for me. You're working too hard, or I just don't feel like I fit in for whatever reason. And that's totally fine. But when it comes to actually building that team, I found that I set the tone, and then I try and find people that want to fill those voids. And then I just let it organically happen, because there's certain personalities on the boat that will help try and, you know, keep that culture going, if that makes sense. It's fairly organic.
Yeah.
It's not something that you can force. You can help it go in a certain direction by offering up ideas, or doing, you know, crew bonding days, or going out for dinner and things like that, or having sort of social days. But ultimately, it's just being happy and talking and communicating. Everybody's kind of responsive to that.
Fantastic. So with regards to mental health issues on board, have you been in a situation where someone was suffering from a mental health issue, whether it was anxiety or depression, and how did you manage it?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think they turn up. They're not. I've had one instant. Most of them sort of revolve around either alcohol or something fairly dramatic happening. Like COVID affected a lot of people in different ways. And soon as I knew that lockdowns were happening, I knew that there was going to be conversations, and people were uncomfortable. But I think it's more of a case of letting people talk through those things and giving them the opportunity to voice their fears and concerns. That's a big one. When it comes to topics of like suicide and things like that, people, I've found that people they're not that open. Like I've had an instance where that topic actually came up, and it was a different boat. I wasn't on that boat. I just happened to be talking to that person and helped them out, but alcohol was involved. And, you know, they were, I don't know what the follow-on was. But I think I'm kind of rambling here, but I think when it comes down to it, if someone is in a position where they are not happy with their current circumstances, it's really going to come back down to a couple of different things. You know, part of it could be actually, you know, their situation on board. It could be other crew members. It could be the captain. It could be the environment. It could be all different number of things. But I think ultimately they have to take some form of responsibility for it and try, if they can, try and figure out what it is that's causing their pain. And I've noticed with a lot of people that start going down in that direction, it's really hard for them to figure that part out. And that's where I've noticed if you can go talk to someone, whether it's the captain or make a phone call and speak to somebody to sort of get that off your chest, then you're one step closer to resolving the issue. Ultimately, it's probably going to take a little bit longer. But those ideas and thoughts get compounded on a boat when you're sort of stuck out at sea and you're working really hard, or if it's long hours and things like that. So it's not easy, but it's also, I think they need to, if they can, talk to somebody. And at the same time, I think it's also the responsibility of everybody else that's on board to sort of see if, you know, they're okay. It's a tough one. It's not being spoken about enough, to be honest.
Yes. And what I'm hearing from you, the skill set that is important here is active listening, being approachable, making time for that other person to be heard. Yeah. Excellent.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. So with regards to poor leadership, you've said that, and I think we've all struggled with it, poor leadership. Fascinated. I really want to know your experience of perhaps a poor leader or an incompetent leader in your eyes, and how did you manage that being in a less superior position to this person?
Well, I can't give specific examples because welcome to the world of the internet, but for anybody in a less superior position that's going to be stepping onto a boat, I always use the analogy of restaurants and bars and hotels, because that's something that they understand. You can go into a brand new bar or hotel with, it looks fancy, it looks great, but you get inside and you realize it's actually sort of toxic as far as the environment. Or you could go into an old bar and hotel and the staff have been there for years, the food's fantastic, and it just feels warm and inviting. You generally, in a less superior position, you generally don't know what you're going to be getting into. So I kind of feel like sometimes it's a bit of a crapshoot unless you've been referred, or you've got someone may have told you some information about the boat that you're going into. But ultimately, I think you really just have to look into yourself and find out whether it's something that you're willing to put up with. That's the ultimate part of it. Because if you're sitting there, as a perfect example, is if I've worked on one boat where it was a little bit smaller, it was like a 40 meter. The captain was supremely knowledgeable, but was a little on the angry side, let's call it. We learned a lot. The crew dynamic was really good as far as the crew, but ultimately it wasn't a great space to be long term. Short term, 6 months, great, maybe 12 months. But I think if you don't feel that you're learning, and if you feel it's a toxic environment, then you need to leave for your own benefit more than anything else. And there's so many people that I've noticed that get into the industry, that get onto a boat and they feel that they have to stay regardless of, you know, what's happening on the boat, whether it's the captain or people around them, that they have to stay for the money because they don't think they're going to get a job or another job, I should say. But that's the wrong sort of way to look at it, because there's so many boats and there's so many programs out there that are fantastic, and you're one boat away from being, you know, that much happier. So if you're not happy where you are, you really should consider making a jump.
Yes, and Captain Dean Pilati says the same.
And it shows.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he's a good guy, Dean.
He is. He's a great man. What I wanted to, I've got so many questions to ask you, but I know we're running out of time. Gosh, where do I even begin? You've stumped me, Luke.
Anyone, it's fine.
I'm so thrilled, firstly, to have met you online. I think we share very common values, and it's funny when you meet someone and you don't know them. Sometimes you feel like you've known them forever, but and it might sound so cliched, but my heart's like this is amazing. When you connect.
Well, you're kind of finding someone in your own tribe, right?
Yes, that's what I was
kind of thinks the same way. It's nice.
Like-minded people. And on that note,
refreshing.
Yes, it's come back to me. What changes would you like to see within the industry, if any? Do you feel like there changes need to be made? You mentioned about suicide prevention, perhaps, mental health issues, they need to be talked about more. I'm not too sure.
I think, and this is something that I'm kind of working on, there's a stigma. I don't know what it was like for you getting started, but when I started out in yachting, there wasn't a lot of information around. And I had a crack at it in 2009, trying a website for like an information portal for people to use. And that was a massive flop because I was using my own theory, which I realized the market didn't want. But what I've started to notice is it's coming back around, where I'm now, like you say, people are asking us questions about the industry. And what I've noticed, especially over the last few years, that there's still a reluctance to onboard green crew. And then green crew not really taking that step to try and figure out what it is that they need to learn in order to be hired by the boats. So I think the industry could probably sit there and maybe help this path, figure out a path for people to sort of to get on before they even get into yachting, because we are global. There's people that are getting into yachting, flying to countries, and then looking for work legally, and then you've got immigration authorities putting them on the planes and deporting them. So I think from a crew perspective, maybe more education
for the green crew, or also
kind of like a thought.
Yeah, is this
for crew in general?
Yes, because also
for green crew and junior crew.
Yes, but also what about those heads of departments who are hiring? Because you often see 1 year's experience at least, or 2 seasons behind you, and there's some green crew out there that have a wealth of experience. I know someone who's been in hospitality for 20 years, and they are intelligent, but because of this label, it really inhibits them to break through in the industry. But then you've got a narcissist or a bully working on board that needs to really be addressed or pushed out so that these good quality candidates can come through.
Yeah, well, I've actually got something I'll talk to you about off this.
Yeah.
Which is like a little side project I'm sort of talking about. But I think as far as the industry, where it's still a very, very, very young industry. You know, if you look at it in the last sort of, I've only been in sort of 17, 18 years or whatever it is, the industry hasn't changed. The boats have got bigger, but ultimately industry hasn't changed. Then you take another step back from that, you're looking at a luxury 6-star sort of concept service industry that specializes and caters to the top 1% of the world. And then you look at the crews, when, you know, if they knew this, the crews are being sometimes haphazardly put together, and then they're spending millions and millions of dollars on, you know, on trying to have a fantastic vacation. The one thing that does need to change, and sometimes this comes with ownership, sometimes it comes with the captain, is building that flow of information down, and the training and the standards and things like that. So there could be concepts looking further forward where, you know, junior crew are trained or having the ability to be onboarded a lot faster. You know, like crew etiquette is, I've got 3 guys, a perfect example. I have 3 people that I brought on for this delivery from Florida up to Alaska. One of them has done work on a yacht before, very simply. Another one, some small boats, and the other one, nothing. Their reality is very different to what we're expecting. Like, from, if I was going to hire them, there's a huge knowledge gap that's missing. Okay. And you watch you watch what they're doing, and it's interesting.
Is it possible?
I'm riddling right now.
I would, maybe it's not the right platform to talk about it, but I just want to help the green crew understand specifically, what are you referring to? What behaviors, or what is this learning gap? What can they, after listening to this interview, go away and learn and improve on? Is it just experience, or is there something else they can do before getting on board?
I'll give you the captain's perspective. Ultimately, you want to try and hire someone that you can just onboard and just plug and play, right? You just want them to pop in and start. And realistically, it's not going to work with a green crew member. There's a lot of base point or little verticals within our business that doesn't get spoken about. No one really knows. Things are like crew etiquette, crew mess etiquette, watch, basic duties of what you're supposed to be doing for your role, vessel knowledge, lines, fenders, you know, knowing the difference between port and starboard, as an example, whether or not you can have a dog on the boat or animals, what you can and can't do, inviting friends on, you know, hooking up with other crew members and bringing them back to your boat, drinking. It's because it's such a small little world, when you bring somebody in that doesn't know what's going on, it changes it. It throws it into this, like, you know, into this little crazy mess, and everybody's kind of turning around. It's like they want their normality back. So if you can learn these basics before you even step onto a boat, like understanding that your dirty laundry needs to go into your underwear bag before it goes into the bag before you put it into the laundry. Yeah. Or if you make your bed and you clean your room, and, you know, rinsing your dishes off before they go in the dishwasher. Basic. Or not going in for seconds when other people haven't eaten. They're really, really simple things. Yes. But when they happen on a boat, they're huge.
Yes, I hear you. And you would think in the courses that they would be covering all of that, but I think when I did my silver service, that wasn't actually covered. That's just my upbringing, that I would know to do some of those basic etiquettes. But it was 3 years ago, I stayed in a couple of crew houses in Antibes to check it out. And the head chef was being so annoyed because this guy would just like play his music in the common quarter. Like, it's just, you don't do that. You just ask first, but it might not be everyone's cup of tea, your music, and maybe people actually don't want to hear any music at all, but they don't think. That's how it comes across. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, they're just, environmental, it's timing, there's all sorts of things. But genuinely people don't understand how intricate the social settings are on yachts and the expectations, because everybody is drilled to their 9 to 5 or their hospitality, and they get to leave at the end of the day. They say bye, that's the end of your day. But for us, we live together, we eat, sleep, we do everything. The interior team looks after the deck crew looks after the exterior, and the engineers, as an example, make sure you have hot water for your shower, and the chef makes sure that your belly's full, and the snack cupboard's there as well. But with all these things happening, no one's going to be aware of the nuances of what it takes to be a crew member. So if you can take, ultimately nobody's really going to understand until they actually get onto a boat. But if you can at least make yourself aware, or do a few things to improve your standing, at least turn up to a boat and know what port and starboard is. Please. The pointy end, the square end. If you're going to take a job as a deckhand, learn about the lights that you're supposed to be seeing on a boat, or collision regulations, or the lines, and watch Jared Watney's videos. He's made millions of them. Have at it. Learn a couple of things. Come to the boat with some knowledge. Show that you're willing to go above and beyond.
Yes.
And it's being able to put that information out to a captain. If that person turned around to me and said, Luke, I have this much experience on a yacht, but I can tell you this about the boat. I can tell you this about, crew etiquette. I've learned my coal regs. I understand, the seasons. I understand all these other bits and pieces. And it'd be like, you've put some time and effort into this. That's great, because there's so much more information out. There's so many more people looking. So if the baseline, nobody's doing any knowledge or learning anything prior, and you just go, I've done X, Y, Z, you're automatically at the top.
Absolutely.
Narrowed your chances, improved your chances.
Yeah, 100%. So with regards to your platform, how do you use that to help other people? For people who want to learn more about you and what you offer on your platform, how would you describe that?
I would say it's kind of like a combination fried rice. It's a little bit of everything. There's no real, the ultimate theme is you're going to eat it and consume it, but what's in it could be absolutely anything. For me, it's part entertainment and creativity. Another part's education. Another part is marine environment sort of stuff. It's really just, it's a mix. I don't really have a main topic. It's sort of yachting and marine life related, I guess. And yeah, I probably should narrow it down at some point, but I'm having too much fun just being a little erratic with it.
Yeah, I think that's important to have fun and have that outlet of expression as well. So important. How can people find you?
I can't. Well, my phone number is ... No, I'm joking. It's on Instagram. It's Lord Luke Hammond. There's a story there, but I'm not going to tell anybody until I get to 100,000. I'm on LinkedIn as Lord Luke Hammond. On Facebook, I've got the Crew Helping Crew page, which has got like nearly 9,000 people in it. I've got another Facebook page for Blue Ocean Yachting. I'm all over the place.
Gosh, well,
mostly just a lot of advice and just being out there, trying to be helpful to people.
That's why you've been nominated for Mentorship Award. There we go. And we started with you and you're like,
Yay.
I don't know why I've been nominated. It was a huge surprise.
I don't. I was. I saw it and I was like, no, there must be another Lord Luke Hammond they're talking about. I'm humble.
Yeah, such an important quality. Thanks so much, Luke, for your time. It's great to have a chat with you.
No worries.